it going? Before we get started, please leave me a few more comments below, those funny, awkward statements or comments to say to girls, because I need a few more of those funny lines to make another funny video. So please, give me your funny comments. So this video is about what to do on the dating phase. Obviously this is a very key, important stage of the process because you're potentially going to be spending at least an hour minimum probably with the girl, one-on-one, so it's important to know what you're doing and knowing how to handle that scenario. But before get into it, I would say it's really important for you to determine or establish what exactly you're looking for in terms of actually dating the girl. Are you looking for a long-term relationship, or are you looking for a long-term girlfriend, or is it more kind of I'm just looking for a fling, or is it I'm kind of looking to bang as many chicks as possible? I would say that all of those answers are completely valid. It will really just depend on you, but I would say it's quite important to have an idea in your mind of what it is you're looking for. And it's not like it's an attitude of, oh, what's in it for me. It's more of what exactly am I looking to achieve, why am I doing this, and taking the necessary steps to go about achieving it. Because on the one hand, you've got people in the pickup community and PUA circles who are like, oh yeah, you need to bang these chicks on the first date, and if you haven't done that, then you're a failure. There's that attitude. Then there's the other spectrum where it's like, oh, all that attitude is really misogynistic, and it's not kind of fair, and it's all about kind of trying to connect with the girl and going on multiple dates and having a slow, steady relationship building up. But really, I mean, it's down to you. It's down to what you want. It's completely. It should be on your terms, how you want to go about doing what you want to do and going about achieving it. But anyway, broadly speaking, you're either going to be looking for a long-term potential girlfriend, or you're going to be wanting to bang as many chicks as possible in a short amount of time as possible. And the way that you go about doing the date will vary depending on what your goal is, I would say. Generally speaking, however, when it comes to the date, what you want to be doing is you want to obviously be talking to the girl on a friendly kind of a level in terms of finding out more about her, and also revealing a bit more about yourself than she previously has known about you. So obviously you're going to be talking about where she comes from, her life story, what brought her to wherever she is in life. The same for yourself, and just talking about your interests and common traits and that sort of thing. So there's going to be a lot of that, but then there is also that you need to kind of balance that with a little bit of the flirty elements in terms of teasing and banter, that kind of thing. Exactly the same as when you're doing the initial interaction on the street or in public. It's really important that you incorporate a bit of the teasing elements of it as well. And I'm going to make another video about that specific topic in general, because that's really important, and it's something that can really kind of elevate your game to a really good level. The key thing though when it comes to dating is you need to go from just general kind of chit chat, friendly kind of chit chat, to building a man to woman kind of a frame, and so there's going to need to be a little bit of sexual escalation involved, and there's very kind of, for me personally, there's quite specific steps to go about achieving that. But obviously there are various and multiple ways to do that, but the reason you want to do that is because you want to eventually get to a point where you're going beyond just being friends, just having kind of like a friendly conversation, to potentially getting a bit more sexual. And it's going to be a gradual kind of path to getting to that point. It's not just going from here we're friends here, and then all of a sudden it's like a big jump. So in order to get to that point, you need to do what's known as escalation. So this is basically sexual escalation. It's a bit of that sounds a bit creepy when you say it like that. Let's just call it escalation. Pretty much all it is there's two ways of how you can do it. It's basically verbal escalation, and there's physical escalation. So physical escalation is where you're touching, so you're going beyond just sitting opposite each other, and you're actually at a point where she's comfortable with you touching her, and potentially vice versa as well. And then The other one is verbal escalation, which is essentially saying things to her that isn't something that a friend would say, and it's something that a potential lover would say. So those are the two kind of things that is really important to gradually do on the date. When it comes to verbal escalation, essentially what you're doing is you're verbalizing your sexual intent, but not in an overt or in an explicit way, because that would just put the girl off. It has to be quite subtle, and it has to be kind of like, it's almost as if you're insinuating it rather than kind of directly stating it, because if you directly state it, it's just too, it's like inappropriate socially. It's like socially inappropriate, and she's going to think you're a weirdo, basically. So one of the ways in which I almost always do verbal escalation on a date is I have basically 3 questions that I say to a girl, and that's essentially a way of going beyond just having a friendly platonic chit chat kind of a conversation where you're just getting to know each other, going more into like a man to woman kind of a frame. So one of the questions I ask is, what did you think about when I approached you in the street or in public or wherever it was? I always ask that question because it's a really good question, because it gets the girl to think back, oh wait, hang on a minute, this guy actually approached me because he liked me, and now he's trying to potentially, form a relationship or something with me. So it gets her to think in that kind of that gets her into that kind of mindset, which is really good to do. And that's one way of just verbally escalating very subtly. So when you ask that question, normally what's going to happen is she's going to be like, oh, yeah, I thought you were really nice and friendly, and I was a bit shocked, I was a bit surprised that you came up to me, and I thought it was quite brave of you. She's going to say something along those lines, and then you can then turn around and say, oh, but I'm sure you get approached all the time, because you're a good looking girl, surely you get loads of guys coming up to you. And then at that point you're able to kind of get her to start talking more about the fact that you approached her, and it changes it into, look, I'm a guy and I approached you, you're a girl, and it gets into that kind of frame. Another question I like to ask is, why are you single? So the good thing about this question is that it gets her kind of to qualify herself to some extent, but it's really just about getting her into this into a conversation where she's talking about potentially being in a relationship, and is talking about what she looks for, talks about herself in the context of being in a relationship and talking to a guy. So that's another really good question to ask. And then another one is, what do you normally look for in a guy? That's normally good as well, because it gets her again to do a bit of qualification, but also it gets her talking about what she's like into in terms of relationships, and it gets into a kind of more sexual mindset, basically. And the good thing about that question is that she normally either describe you or she'll describe like the opposite of you, and both are good, because if she describes you, then you can just spike it up a bit by saying, oh, so pretty much me then, and that's kind of like a funny thing to say at the moment. Or you could be like, oh, it's the opposite of me. Oh, okay, just say, oh, so it's basically the opposite of me. Oh, I better go then, bye, like that kind of a thing, and then sort of be about to leave, and then, but obviously as a joke, and then that's another funny way of spiking it up a bit as well. But yeah, I almost always ask those 3 questions in almost every single date that I have, just because it works. It's kind of boring maybe just saying the same questions every time, but it definitely works, and it's like proven, tried and tested method that I always do, and I always get results from it. So definitely give it a go if you want. So those questions are, what did you think when I approached you? What do you look for in a guy? And why are you single? So when it comes to physical escalation, obviously you're trying to get into a point where she's comfortable with being touched, not in a kind of a weird, creepy kind of way, but in like a kind of like a subtle way, so that eventually you're going to want to have to kiss her at some point. So instead of just kind of going in for the kiss, it's better if you've like exchanged some form of touch beforehand, because that way she'll be a lot more comfortable with it. So one of the ways to do that is, whenever I make a joke on the date, or whenever I tease her or something, I'll just like touch her on the leg or touch her on the arm or on the shoulder, just kind of like that, like I'm joking, don't worry, like that kind of a thing. And that's just one of the ways to start it off. And then another thing I do is that I'll just put my arm next to her arm, and then I'll be like, oh, look how tanned you are compared to me, or look how white you are, you're almost as white as me, kind of a thing. And then just kind of do a little tease about that. And then another thing is I'll just say, oh, look, you have really small hands, and then just grab her hand and put it next to my hand, and then be like, oh, your hands are really small. Even if they're not small, it's just really just an excuse just to kind of get her touching and get her comfortable just with touching. Just little things like that you can do that are really effective, actually, just to get her a bit more comfortable, because eventually you're going to want to go in for the kiss. And then when it comes to going in for the kiss, there's no perfect moment to do it. Really, what I tend to do is I'll do all the steps that I've just spoken about in terms of verbal and physical escalation, and then I'll just go in for it after having said a joke, or or after kind of like a spike or an emotional high. I'll then go in for it. In terms of a spike, what I mean by that is when you've said something that is made her laugh, or something that has kind of engaged her on an emotional level, so that she's in an emotional high at that point. And if there's absolutely nothing you can think of at the time, you can just give her like a slightly cheesy compliment, like, oh, you have really nice eyes, and then just going for the kiss like that. As I said, there's no perfect moment to do it, and doing something like that is so much better than waiting till the end of the date when you're just about to hop onto the tube station or something, and then she's just standing there kind of awkwardly. That's like the worst thing to do. So but always better to be kissing the girl actually at the venue, and doing it like that. And then once you've kissed her or you've made out with her, at that point it's pretty much a case of doing it a few more times, and then potentially getting her back to your place afterwards. Or obviously don't be too pushy to the point where she's uncomfortable with your escalation, and trying to get her back to your place. But the thing is, when going in for the kiss, there's always a chance that she might kind of turn her head away like that because she's not really comfortable with it, or she's not really comfortable with kissing in public or something. That's always something you have to prepare for. But if she does turn her head away or whatever, don't act butthurt about it. Don't show that it affects you or whatever. Just laugh it off, and just continue as if nothing happened. Because if she kind of notices that you're acting butthurt or something, she's going to kind of lose respect for you, and it's just not going to be a very good look. So just going for the kiss. If she turns away, don't shit yourself or get all pissed about it or something. Just potentially change the subject and play it off coolly. One of the really important things to decide is the venue of the date. So generally speaking, if you want to be doing fast escalation with the girl, then you want to be definitely in a bar scenario. You want to be in a situation where you can actually sit not opposite the girl, but actually side by side the girl, because that way, when it comes to doing the physical escalation stuff and actually eventually going in for the kiss, it's so much easier. It's almost virtually impossible to do it when you're sitting opposite each other, just because it's so awkward if you do try to do it when you're sitting opposite, because there's too much of a gap. It's just not going to work. So yeah, it's important that when it comes to the venue, that you've already got a place in mind before you arrange to meet up, and ideally one where you can sit actually opposite the girl, so that way you can do the escalation stuff. A lot of people in the community will say stuff like you need to bounce her from A to B to C and all this shit. I think a lot of that is kind of overplayed and overrated. It's not really that necessary a lot of the time. Again, it depends on your logistics in terms of how close is your home to the bar, etc. But a lot of it isn't really that necessary, especially if you're dating a girl who's already in your hometown or home city, and you're not it's not like you've got only one day to get again into bed, kind of a thing. The thing is with this is that if you're dating a girl who's already in your home city and she's there for a while, or indefinitely, then it's not like you have to get her into bed on the first date like a lot of these pick-up guys will, advocate. It's really not that necessary. If you really want to, then obviously go for it, but don't think that it's really necessary and that if you don't do it then you failed or something, because that's just a load of bollocks. It's okay that just to go for coffee on the first date and sit opposite each other and don't do much escalation. It's okay to do that on the first date. Chances are she'll still want to see you again on the second date, as long as there was a little bit of flirting and a little bit of excitement that was built up on the first date. Let's say I've gone to another country and I've only got a very, very limited amount of time to sleep with a girl, then obviously I'm going to try and get her to meet up in a bar, preferably close to the hotel or whatever, and then do really fast escalation, really fast verbal and physical escalation, and try and kiss her relatively quickly, and then that's kind of a thing to do. So I would pick a bar that I've already know about where it's got side by side seating, and escalate really fast on her, only because I've only got a very small amount of time in which to proceed with things. But yeah, just in terms of things just to never ever do, never ever go out for a meal with a girl. Never ever 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 do that in the dating phase. Never. Really, just don't ever do that, because potentially you'll be spending a lot of money for a girl that potentially will flake on you and will never want to see you again after that point. That's a mistake I made in my early days. Never ever do that. It's one of the worst things you can do. And it's also difficult to actually build a good atmosphere and actually do any good escalation with a girl when you're having a meal anyway. And you're almost definitely going to be sat opposite each other as well, so it's never really a good idea. But yeah, as I said before, remember that when it comes to dating, if you're looking for a long-term girlfriend, then it's important that you actually get to know her a bit. Potentially go on multiple dates and actually get to know her and build up a relationship slowly, rather than doing kind of fast escalation if that's kind of what you're looking for. Whereas if you're kind of a guy that's wanting to bang as many girls as possible, then I would say, yeah, go for the fast escalation, and try and get into bed as quickly as possible. Nothing wrong with that. So yeah, it's up to you what you want to do. But yeah, have it in your mind what it is that you do want to do and go for it.
Cheers for watching. If you'd be interested in one-to-one coaching with me, where we'll go out in public and work on you approaching girls, or more generally with your social confidence, please visit my website ed-game.com.